Hello again, Isabel Evans, and another vlog for the Scottish Testing Group. So last couple of times, I was talking about the research I've done so far and the papers that I have published, Stuck in Limbo with Magical Solutions, Test Tools, An Illusion of Usability, and then the last one, which was just in 2021, which was Scared, Frustrated and Quietly Proud. All of them about test tools and test automation and testers' experiences of those tools. And what I didn't mention is I'm doing all this through the University of Malta. So that's where I'm a student, part-time and remote, particularly with COVID. And I think I should mention my two supervisors, Dr. Chris Porter and Dr. Mark Micallef, because they've been really good and really helpful. And they're also co-authors on the paper, as is Julian Harty on a couple of them. And they're all people, Chris, Mark, Julian, who, while I've been the principal researcher on this and done the data collection and analysis, they've helped with the analysis, checked what I've done, contributed towards the writing and so on and so forth. Not possible to do these things unless you're in a group. We know that. So in this vlog, I'm going to talk a little bit about what next for my research, which will continue to be at the University of Malta. I've just done what's called a transfer report, which is a halfway mark. It's like a mini exam in a way. It wasn't an exam, but I had to write a report about what I'd done and what I planned to do next, and then be questioned about that and show that I know what I'm doing. So I have a plan of action for the next 3 years, and there was a lot coming out of the data I've collected so far and the papers that we've published. So although it was hugely interesting, I've written a piece which hasn't been published on the history of testing, and I'm not going to pursue that. I think that's a job for a historian to do. And of course, I've published a couple of papers around the tester experience, TX, the lived experience of testers, their emotions, their motivation. And this is an absolutely enormous topic, and it's multidisciplinary. It's too big for completing in the context of a PhD, which is time limited, and you're supposed to fix on one small problem that you can address reasonably well. So although I think that's hugely important, I'm putting it to one side for the moment. So my plan for the next 3 years is based around the following on from the Illusions of Usability paper and thinking about whether there are things that could help address those illusions. So are there things that would help people who are designing and building tools and automation to actually think about usability and quality and use and user experience of those tools in a more solid way? And I'm going to take, again, a data-led approach. So I'm going to be doing research to gather more data in very specific areas and use that to lead what I do in the rest of the research. So it's still very much an exploratory and experimental approach where I'll keep on revisiting the direction I'm going in and making sure that what I'm doing is following the data, following the evidence. But I do know that I want to take a people-focused approach. I want to think about who's doing the testing, what approaches they're taking, what goals they've got, and what ecosystem they're working in. So what domain they're in, and also where they are in the technology stack. People are working in different places. They might need different approaches and different tools. And out of that, I hope to produce something useful, something helpful for industry, something that will feed back into the industry, that maybe will help with the how-to on the design of test tools and automation. Now, in taking a people-focused approach, I'm aware that other people in industry are already looking at this, and I particularly mentioned that I've had conversations with Brendan Connolly, who was the Eurostar Rising Star last year, and he's talking about inclusive test automation. And there's a lot of commonality in what we're talking about. So if you like, he's working practically in the field, and I'm looking to research around that area and find evidence, which may, I hope, if we continue discussion, help with that. And I'd also mention Richard Bradshaw, who's talking about automation in testing and talking about people-focused approaches. So again, he and I have had a conversation, and there are other people that I've discussed this with in industry. I mentioned Julian earlier as a co-author on a couple of the papers, and he's researching into using analytics to help improve software quality. So it's a different type of tool to address software testing and software quality. So I'm wanting to interact with other people in industry and in academia who are looking into similar areas. There's also people out there researching on programming tools who are coming to some similar sorts of conclusion. And again, those are people whose work I will look at and who I'll, if with any luck, discuss things with to come up with ideas. Because it's academic research, I have to have a theoretical framework, and I'm going to use that theoretical framework because it's actually really useful for hanging ideas off, and also for focusing down on exactly what do I want to cover in this research. But I'm going to bring my own practical experience to bear on that as well. So over the last 40 years of working in IT, I've been involved in looking at things like maturity models, their advantages and disadvantages, looking at quality definitions, and I talked about that in an earlier vlog, design thinking and systems thinking to help us think about complexity, and think about how systems interact. And we need to remember that people are themselves systems. So when a person and a piece of technology interact, this is two systems coming together to make one larger system. We have a lot of complexity out there with individuals, teams, organisations, pieces of technology all interacting with each other. And the design thinking to help drive user experience, HCI it's referred to in an academic context, human-computer interaction. And also to think about the technology stack, where people are in the technology stack. So part of my theoretical framework is to address where are people working within that stack. And I'm going to use the OSI network levels as a model to help me think about that. So it's quite a complicated theoretical framework, which I need in itself to model down to something that I can follow through, some sort of model that will guide me. And I've got two research questions. How do people use tools to support testing? And how can HCI, the academic process, and UX, if you like, help the design of tools to support testing? So what I'm doing right now is starting to look into who is doing testing, what are they actually doing, and how are they doing it. And as I indicated right back at the beginning of the blog series, nothing in my experience and nothing in the data that I'm collecting is indicating that there are easy answers to those questions. So I think it's important to try and find out some sort of classification, try and define some way which will help organise, if you like, the persona sets. It might get to something like that. That's my starting point. And I hope if I can classify in some way who is doing testing, and it's not just testers, what they're doing and how they're doing it, that might help move towards defining what is an appropriate tool set, which might be different depending on the domain, the maturity level, the network level, the definition of quality that's being used, and so on and so forth. How long is it going to take me to do this? Well, about 3 years, part-time. I've got an absolute stop date of 2025, which is 4 years in fact, but the aim is to see what I can get done in 3 years. I'm going to be coming to you in industry and in academia with questions, and also I hope I'm going to be reporting back results. So maybe more of these vlogs coming up as I find things out, as I have questions to ask, as I have things to report back. I hope you found that interesting and wish me well on my journey, the next part of it. I'm in the foothills at the moment and I've got a long way to climb to get to the end of this. So wish me luck and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much.